Are you ready? Are you ready to hear some thought-provoking concepts about how we move our body? I'm Linda Gee-Hesketh, and I'm here as a mom, a wife, a grandma, and formerly trained as a kinesiologist. So the science of human movement, but also a world traveler. So I'm going to bring you concepts based in Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, different cultural thoughts on movement, and hopefully inspire you to apply some of these really simple principles that are so cool, and they leave us feeling so good. And the side bonus is that we look really good and we move in an agile way, and it's sustainable and harmonious with the rest of our lives. So stay tuned.
Hey, you guys, I am so excited to share a funny story about how my feet impacted my hearing. When I was 29, I broke 3 bones in my foot. And at the time, to give you some context, I was running a lot. Probably 4 half marathon races each year with lots of intentional training in between those races. And also had 2 little kids, running a couple of businesses with my husband, who traveled extensively for professional sport, and life was really busy. And I was rehabilitating my foot. I'm so grateful for good physiotherapists. I give thanks to that every single time I start off on a walk or a run now, many, many years later, because I'm fully rehabilitated. And even though that foot still wears a shoe size that's half a size larger, the arch of that foot is just a little bit different. But my funny story is that I was learning to run again, and I was increasing my running time and distance duration by 5% each week. And I went on a February vacation from my cold climate to the West Coast, and it was beautiful. And I couldn't resist going for a run along a seawall where there was no snow, and it was so intensely beautiful, and you could see the ocean, and I was just enjoying it. And I got to my 20 minutes, and I made the fatal mistake that everybody makes when they're warmed up and feeling good and full of endorphins. And I thought, I can go a little further. I'll be fine. I'm feeling good. And so I went a little further, stopped, and then walked back. And once I cooled down, my foot completely locked up. It was having nothing to do with me standing up, supporting my body weight, going for a walk. And so I asked my girlfriend, who I was traveling with, if she could just help me out a little bit, because she's a very skilled massage therapist. And she said, I'm just learning this technique. Mind you, this was, almost 30 years ago. She said, I'm learning this technique. It's called myofascial release. And so she worked on my foot 5 minutes. It felt great. We went to a restaurant for dinner, and it was a little bit early because of the time zone change. So we were eating earlier than everyone else in the city. And so the restaurant was pretty quiet. It was pretty empty. And she's speaking to me really loudly. And I said, are you mad because I asked you to work on my foot? And she said, no, this is how I always talk to you. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we flew back to our city, and I just thought, oh my gosh, the airplane is having so much turbulence. It is so loud in this airplane. And then I got to my car, which was parked at the airport. I was the primary driver. And clearly, I had driven myself to the airport and parked the car. And the radio was at a volume that was so high. I thought, what is going on? And then I get home, and I'd been living in this house for about 5 years, and my bed was always in the same spot in the bedroom, same bedroom. And at 4 a.m., I sit straight up in bed because I can hear a train, like a locomotive, going through the bedroom. It's like, what is this? And then I realize it's a train from about 10 kilometers away. It's down by the river, and it's got a 4 a.m. run. And I was like, wow, that was weird. I've never noticed that before. Never heard that before. And the second morning I'm home, I hear the same train, and I sit up in bed, realize it's the same thing that's happening, and I lie back down again. I literally put a second pillow over my head, and I'm trying to block out the sound. And on the third day, I wake up again. This train sounds like it's going through my bedroom. And I phone up my girlfriend, and I said, I don't know what's going on, but my hearing feels like it's extra sensitive, and I need some sleep. Like, I feel crazy because of the lack of sleep. And she said, I think your hearing is just normal. Like, I think it's been restored. I don't think it's super sensitive. And I was stunned, jaw-dropping stunned, that the connective tissue in my foot, which I learned is all connected in one system throughout my whole body, like a beautiful silk curtain that drapes down, and it's water-free and flowy and gorgeous. But once there's a snag in it, it doesn't quite drape the same way. So when she corrected the fascial resistance and released the resistance in my foot area, I was able to walk again, but it also released some resistance in my hearing, and so my hearing was restored. I was completely stunned, completely curious, and completely passionate about the rest of the world knowing about this goodness and being able to take proactive, preventative care toward this tissue in our body that we don't pay any attention to. So it has a way where it likes to be treated, it likes to be moved, it likes to be released, it likes to be fed and nourished, and we don't pay attention to it. So this is our myofascial system. This fascia is like this really thin spider web, and it surrounds every bone, muscle, nerve, tendon, everything, every organ in our body, and there's one piece. It's not a concert or a symphony of individual pieces. There's one piece. So as we live our life and we have a little scar here, maybe a surgery there, maybe a childbirth, maybe a burn, maybe a snag, maybe some dental work, little things like this add up in snags in our connective tissue and end up winding us tighter and tighter and tighter until we restrict our range of motion, and it might show up somewhere completely unrelated. So my foot was completely unrelated to my hearing geographically on my body. Like anatomically, it sounds like it's just like almost as far away as you can get from my foot. But if you think about tensile strength, you can actually have way more strength further away. So in a way, it makes sense. So if people have a sore knee, I would look at their foot mobility, their ankle mobility, their hip strength. I would look north of that, south of that, rather than just in the knee joint. And if there's some way that we can release that, if there's something going on in the upper back, the neck, the shoulder, let's look at the hands. Let's look at how tight they are. Let's look at the tension through the scalp, the dental work, the jaw. Let's look at compensation through the low back and how even the pelvis is. If people are having issues around not being able to strengthen low abdomen, let's look at pelvic floor. Let's look at low back, because there's a whole sling that goes from our sternum in the front along our abdominal wall, under our pelvic floor, and up along the low back to the rib cage. And there's another sling that goes across the body, like the right shoulder and the left hip, the left shoulder and the right hip. There's another sling that goes along the front of the body, the back of the, the back of the body. And think of it like a slingshot. So you know how you have a slingshot that's shaped like the capital letter Y, and it's got two stretchy elastics, and then it's got a little pouch where you can stick a stone. If you pull the elastic back just a little bit, the stone's just going to go plop. But if you can stretch this elastic back by about a meter, that same stone is going to be a projectile with so much more power, so much more speed, so much more force. That's the same as our body. And that elastic is our fascia system, our ability to stretch, our ability to move. So without increasing the weight or the size of the stone in the slingshot, we can create so much more power and force. Same with our bodies. So I can move faster if I have more range of motion, if I can wind up that tension and store that energy so that it can unwind. So whether I'm running and my hip motion is cycling, or if I'm swimming and my shoulders are moving, or anything, especially with rotation, with throwing, or even racket sports or hockey, that tensile strength is really stored in our fascia. And from an energetic perspective, a lot of emotion is stored in our fascia. So being able to release that takes intention. We can lengthen a muscle in 30 seconds by holding a stretch. Our fascia requires fully 2 to 5 minutes to remodel somewhat and release. So breaking a holding pattern in our fascia, which is tight or short, is going to require a different type of training, which is why long hold stretches at the end of a training session, or yin yoga, which combines a long hold, stretching a sling of muscles, and usually with very focused deep breathing, nostril breathing, will really help release this. Another modality is not so common in North America. It's very common in South America. It's like as easily accepted as dental work. And it's called tremor trauma release. And it's intentional tremoring to release any emotion that's held in our connective tissue. It's very effective, and it's instant, and it holds. So it's not something you need to revisit unless you reinsert that emotion. But definitely using that natural cadence of vibration to allow that tension to release is very possible. It's very powerful. It's a beautiful practice. And the more I learn about fascia, the more I understand about it, the more I think it's like one of the unsung heroes of our body, that and the lymphatic system. Because really, in North America, we just don't give it enough, not weight. We don't give it a fair seat at the table for how we remodel our body, how we create transformation, how we are very deliberate with creating a desired training effect. So if you would like to hear more, leave a comment, and we'll make sure that you keep a seat at the table for when we bring more information and more training programs around fascia to you. I hope you enjoyed our time together. If you'd like to deepen some understanding or continue to have shared experiences together, I invite you to connect on my website. It's www.lindagehesketh.com, and there are some freebies on there. Also, I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Linda Gee-Hesketh. And if you're on Facebook, there's a free Facebook community group. It's called Celebrating Delicious Movement Podcasts. And I look forward to connecting with you some more.